Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. This week's video, we're just going to continue on from last week's video with the stamina system, except this week's really going to be displaying the stamina bar level stamina number on the model using Diegetic Design. That is sort of like a health bar or a stamina bar which is attached to a model, and we're updating the data behind a material to visualize that. Just a quick disclaimer, this is not my area of expertise. Essentially, I have watched Underscore's video, which I will link down below, and I'm just passing this on to you. I have no shame in saying that. I have very little experience when it comes to material and material data. It's something that I do work on a little bit. However, I don't have as much passion for that as I do prototyping and making other bits and pieces. So, that being said, if you want more detail, I heavily suggest that you watch Underscore's video. That's in the description. And let's just get this sorted. Let's get this material built. So if you've watched part one, you've got this stamina system built out, which reports to the screen, and essentially what happens is when you run, that stamina bar decreases and then slowly regenerates once you're stopped. So now that all that's missing is we're going to add a stamina bar to our character. So I've gone for sort of like a backpack mounted style. This is purely because this idea was heavily inspired by Dead Space, an old space game. It's more of like a horror game in space. It's pretty cool. You should play it if you've not played it. If you've played it before, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They have the health bar built into the suit, the space suit that the character wears, and that is Diegetic Design. It's essentially taking numbers off the screen and sort of visually representing it in a material or on a mesh of a character. We're going to keep it really simple. By just adding a plane and sort of adding a mesh to that plane, but essentially to get this sort of Diegetic Design onto something else. If you can see here, my mannequin's split up into two materials, one for the actual skin and then another one for the logo on his chest. If I change that now, you can see just this portion. So you could effectively set this material up that we're going to create and assign it to the chest part. And it should work, but we're not going to do that. But if you want to do this on other things like weapons and have like an ammo counter actually on the weapon rather than on the UI, you would need to have a material space for where you want that to show. So just so you know that. So let's crack on. Let's add a component. Let's add a plane, and if I zoom out, I can see it's on the floor. I'm just going to rename it to Stamina Bar. Stamina Bar. I'm also going to socket it to the spine or free. Now, because that's changed the rotation, you can't actually see it because planes are only one-sided. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press E. I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees so it's pointing outwards. And I'm going to change the scale. I'm going to change the X to 0.3. And I'm going to change the Y to 0.1. And then I'm going to press W and deselect it. I'm going to pull it backwards just a little bit. So it's not in my character anymore, but it's just kind of floating on the back of him. You can tweak these numbers by all means, and you can do whatever you want. I'm just going for this as it's easy to visualize. Okay, so next what we need to do is we need to create a new material, which I haven't removed the previous version, so I'm going to do that. We need to create a new material, and we're going to call this one M_Diegetic Stamina Bar. Diegetic Stamina Bar. And then we're going to open that up. Okay, again, just quickly, materials are not my favourite thing in the world. I see these as a completely separate part of Unreal. It's almost like if you were to learn materials, you're learning Unreal again. Materials are a specific trade in my eyes. The people who do it really well study it for a long time, and hats off to you, because the things that I've seen people do with materials is absolutely brilliant. Am I one of them people? Definitely not. So this is almost going to be like a copy and paste. I do apologise, but I am going to link the video down below that I got this from, and hopefully they can give you more information about the things that we're about to cover. So to start with, we need to change the material itself. Just make sure you've got this material node selected, and on the left hand side we want to change the blend mode to a masked mode, and we're changing the lighting mode to unlit. And if you select the preview to be a plane, you can see that as before, the plane is invisible on one side. If you then select two-sided and give it a minute, you'll see that now it's visible on both sides. And because we've made these changes, you can see that now we've only got a few options to use now, instead of all of these base colours, metallic, specular and all that sort of stuff. We've been limited. The reason that we've picked mask is if you imagine if you was to use masking tape, for example, and you was to cover an object with tape, only part of that object would now be visible. And you could decide, do I want to cover half of it? Do I want to cover a quarter of it? And in a sense, we can do that with our material. We can say we only want to see a tenth of it, a half, 3/4 of it. We can really decide that. And what we're going to do is we're going to link that sort of decision to our Stamina data. So that decision's made for us, and it visualizes our Stamina bar. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to be able to tap into this material in the world on the object that it's on. To do that, we're going to use the texture coordinate. From this, we're going to do a mask, and this is actually going to be a component mask. Let me just try that again. I usually type comp first. Yeah, it's under maths, component mask. And then by deselecting the green, you'll get this kind of sort of black, no colour, to red, full colour on one side. And that's really like the blend between the mask's going to achieve. It's either going to be it's going to have a gradient effect, so it looks nice and smooth. To activate this, or to sort of like adjust it, we need to put an add in, and then what we're going to do is we're going to change this to 0.5. Next thing we need to do is another add. So you can press A on the keyboard and click, and then we're going to tag this previous add node into the B of our new node. And then this A node is actually going to be our stamina data or our health data, depending on which one you're doing it for. Because of the numbers that these create and how we want this mask to work, we actually want to use a 1 minus, and that's actually going to flip these numbers. Then what we're going to do is multiply, just so it ends up with the right output number that we need, and we're going to multiply by 50. Then we want to clamp that number so it doesn't go too far into the extreme. We've got a min and max of 0 and 1. We don't have to adjust this at all. And then we can pin this into our opacity. And that's pretty much it for that bit. Now we get to pick a colour. So if you hold free on the keyboard and click, you'll get a constant free vector, which is basically RGB. If you select this little black box here where it says constant on the left, and drag to whatever colour you want, and then make sure you take it out of the black up into the colour. Hit OK, and you should see this update with the colour that you've got. I'm then going to plug that into the emissive. This will update with blue, but it won't update. It doesn't really adjust with this just yet. Essentially, if I start previewing this node, If I change this to minus 0.5, okay, here we go. So as you can see at the moment, we can see half. We can see only half. And if I set this to minus 1, you shouldn't see anything. It'll be all black. And then if I set this to 1, you'll get the entire color. And by adjusting these values, we're gonna get the effect that we want. So 0 is basically mimicking this mask here. So we're just starting to lose health, stamina here a little bit. But because I'm not super familiar with these nodes, I'm not going to pretend that I know what I'm talking about. So let's just carry on. So next we need, I'm just going to press save. Next we need to get aware of getting data in our blueprint into this material. And what we can do is if we go back to your contents folder, we can right click and under materials and textures, there's a material parameter collection. And essentially this is just a list of values that we can adjust in a blueprint, which also can be used in a material. So select that. Let me just double check I've clicked the right one there. Yep. And then I'm just going to call this one material data stamina. Ooh, stamina. Okay, I'm going to double click that. So then it opens up. And under Scala parameters, I'm just going to add 1. I'm going to click this little arrow to drop it down. And I'm going to set this as a default value of 0.5. I'm going to hit, should I change the name to stamina? So we've got stamina 0.5. Press save, and we can close that now. And then from this add, we need a material. Let's have a look here. Data. Okay. I think this is going to be a collection. It might be this one, collection parameter. We're going to add a collection parameter. And at the moment, none is selected, but on the left, under the parameter name, there we go. We've got stamina. So now my stamina data is coming in here. So obviously, at the moment, this is just 0.5, which is a default that we've just set. We're not actually updating it just yet, but we're going to do that just now. So I'm going to press save, and I'm going to go back to my third-person character. Okay, so back in our third-person character now, what we need to do is we need to update that material data parameter from our character. So to do this, an easy way to do it is if we create a function. So over on the left-hand side here, let's add a function, and let's call it update stamina bar. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this over to the left. And then while I've got this node selected, on the right hand side here, we can add an input or an output. We need to add an input, and this is going to be our stamina number. Stamina. And if yours hasn't already, just change this to an integer, or whatever value you've got set for your health or stamina or whatever you're doing this for. It could be your ammo count, whatever you're picking. Just change this to the same type. Mine's an integer, so we're going to go with that. And then what we need to do is we need to make this negative. So if you type in neg, you get negative int. I'll just do it again. Neg. Negate int, and it basically just times it by -1, which flips its sort of positive or negative. From that, we're going to divide it by a float. So I think I'm just going to go divide, and I'm going to go for float, divide by float, but then I'm going to drag this into here, and this should convert it. So it's converting my int into a float. And essentially, when you're doing a division, the reason that you want it to be a float is because integers do not have decimal places. They're the whole numbers, whereas floats have a decimal place, and your number is just going to be more accurate. So let's divide this by 50. We're dividing that by 50 because essentially our material is going to work between like 0 and 1, and our stamina is currently 50, so we want to get that down into sort of decimals, like lower numbers. We're also going to add 0.5, and this will change our default up to a whole. And then from that we need to set a Scala parameter value. Drag this in. Pick the collection. So for me, I've got the material data stamina, and the parameter name I want is stamina, and this is the number that we're gonna update. So with that all being said, we hit compile. The only thing we've got to do now is really select our stamina bar, go to its basic shape, material, type in M underscore and then die, and there we've got Diegetic stamina bar. So you can see that it's currently half. Let's hit compile and play, and let's run. Okay, and this doesn't seem to be updating. Let me just have another quick. Okay, I figured out what it was. So essentially, I think I may have made a mistake earlier when previewing this add node just after the mask. I left mine at 0. This should have been 0.5. Once that's been adjusted and saved, one additional thing that I've done is because the stamina bar hasn't been updated until we've pressed this button, it appears blank. So just on an event begin play, I'm just adding an update stamina bar here, just so then when we start, the stamina bar has loaded in correctly. And then what we do is when we sprint around, you can see that that bar is reducing until we get to 0, which is then invisible. And then as our stamina regenerates, you can see that it is filling back up. That's pretty much it. I do apologise that this video has been a little bit more makeshift than previous videos. Like I said, I really liked this. I really like this Diegetic Design idea. It's really cool. Obviously, but because it is led by a material, this isn't really my area of expertise. I stick to more prototyping and bits and pieces like that. So this was more of a copy and paste, pass along information for me. I try not to do videos like this, just because I don't feel like I'm actually teaching anything more than just say, as you know, I'm just basically saying copy me and it'll work. I'm going to wrap it up there because I don't know if you're picking that up in the background, but I've got some building work here at the house at the moment. And it's just started to get really noisy, so I do apologise if you could hear any sort of background noise as the video was being made. My computer's in better health now. If you are following sort of the community page, if you aren't, one of my hard drives was in bad health and was preventing me from being on my computer for a few days until some new ones arrived. That's now back up and fixed. So yeah, I should be a bit more frequent in the community page and the Discord. That being said, if you're not a part of the Discord, please join us. You know, there's only a few of us, but if you want to send me any messages, if you want to ask me any questions, you can do. That's absolutely fine. If this or the previous video, because I'm going to say this video doesn't really count, but if you're following on from the previous video, if that really helped, please consider subscribing. I post every Sunday. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in other videos. So that's it from me, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.